A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. Great to have you on board for the show today. We've got a good one coming up. You're going to hear from a brand new gun store owner, not a brand new gun owner, but a brand new gun store owner in the state of Michigan. But before we get to that, we have several news items to get to. Some big news reporting yesterday afternoon at Bearing Arms, a federal judge's decision granting an injunction against Governor Charlie Baker's order to declare gun stores non-essential and those non-essential businesses must close. Yeah, this is great news. You have a federal district judge declaring that he just could not find a substantial fit between the stated objective of the governor's public health order and the closure of every gun store in the state of Massachusetts. And the state of Massachusetts really couldn't come up with a good reason why, liquor stores, for example, are allowed to open, but gun stores are not, given the fact that we do have a right to keep and bear arms. The Judge Woodlock, said, I don't think you guys are going to win here on the merits of this case. So he granted the injunction. The state of Massachusetts had argued that, listen, these closures are temporary. There's no violation of the Second Amendment. They actually argued that any gun owner in Massachusetts who couldn't purchase ammunition, for example, in the state of Massachusetts, could drive to New Hampshire and purchase ammunition at either Walmarts or gun stores that are remain open in that state, which is bizarre if you think about it. So the governor wants a stay-at-home order, wants everybody to shelter in place, but if you need ammunition, you could drive across the state line into New Hampshire. I mean, the federal judge in this case didn't buy this argument either. Said that gun stores can reopen as early as tomorrow, Saturday, May the 9th. Under social distancing guidelines that have been established by the state. So they're not going to just, throw open their doors and welcome dozens of people in at a time. The same type of limitations that we've seen in other states around the country going to be present for those gun stores in Massachusetts, but they will be reopened for business. Now, the state of Massachusetts could appeal this decision. Governor Charlie Baker said that he would abide by what the court said, but that doesn't preclude an appeal to the First Circuit Court of Appeals. I'll be curious to see if the state actually does this, because this was a very well-reasoned decision by Judge Woodlock. And if the First Court of Appeals gets a hold of this case, I suspect that have a very difficult time coming up with the legal reasoning to undo this injunction that is in place. And eventually, this lawsuit, which will continue, by the way, even with the injunction in place, the lawsuit continues. Eventually, the First Circuit Court of Appeals is going to get this case anyway. It might be that the state of Massachusetts decides to cut their losses on this one, given the fact that Baker had announced some other measures to slightly reopen the state's economy. The state of Massachusetts may just decide that this is not a court fight that is worth continuing. Although, given the anti-gun attitudes of the Attorney General Maura Healey and, what we've seen from Governor Baker in the past, anything is possible. Now, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, he had some decisions to make on Thursday. It was the signing deadline for legislation. So either he vetoed legislation, or he allowed bills to become law without his signature, or he could sign these bills. He vetoed about 36 measures on Thursday in Maryland, including a background check bill that was a top priority for gun control advocates in the state. Already, Maryland has, quote-unquote, universal background checks for handgun transfers. So any handgun that is sold or transferred via a private party, that's supposed to go through a background check. Long guns not included under that provision of the state law, but lawmakers in Annapolis had passed the bill that would have required every transfer of a long gun to go through a background check as well. This was one of about 10 measures supposedly dealing with violent crime that Governor Hogan rejected, saying that they did not do enough to reduce violent crime. He had his own package of crime bills that the legislature rejected, and he basically said, you all should have approved these bills instead of the ones that you did end up sending to my desk. So good news for gun owners in the state of Maryland. And good news for would-be gun owners in the Grand Rapids area of Michigan, where a new gun store has opened just in the past couple of weeks. Boy, you talk about, I guess, good or bad timing, one way or the other. Lisa Mayo is the owner of Flashpoint Firearms, and she joined me on the program earlier today to talk about the whirlwind of activity that's been taking place at her shop over the past couple of weeks. And April 27th, I mean, this is, right in the peak, really, of this surge in gun purchases that we're seeing. You open your doors. What was the reaction from the community? Have you been busy?
Have been very busy. They've been very warm and welcoming. Fox 17 did do a little news story about it, which was fantastic. I really appreciate that they came out and did a little story on me. But people think it's great that we opened because the demand's there, the need's there. We just wanted to help people exercise their Second Amendment right.
Well, you're certainly doing that. Have you burned through all of the inventory that you had acquired? Do you still have, guns on your shelf? And how easy are you finding it getting resupplied with firearms and ammunition at the moment?
Currently, we still have guns and all sorts of guns available. Luckily, a lot of the orders that we did were like a month ago. So a lot of those orders are coming in. They've been taking about a month to come in. But for us to reorder certain items, yeah, it's hard. I'm not lying. A lot of our suppliers have a lot of zeros on certain products.
Yeah, well, you're not alone in dealing with that. I was talking to a friend who has a gun store here locally, and they got, I think their last supply of ammunition, they got 2 boxes of 9mm, not 2 cases. Yep. 2 boxes of 9mm to restock their shelves. I mean, clearly the demand right now is high. And what we're hearing anecdotally from a lot of gun store owners, Lisa, is that we're seeing a lot of first-time gun buyers come in. Has that been your experience over the past couple of weeks?
I would agree. I would say about 80% of our clientele are first-time gun owners.
Wow, 80%. Yep. And is it men, women, older, younger, everybody? Is there a stereotypical new gun owner, or is it just a cross section of the community?
It's a very well blended mix of everyone.
Huh. That's good to hear. Why are they so interested in buying a gun right now?
They're scared. To be honest, the crime is up. And to be honest, it does take about 5 minutes for responders to come. And a lot of stuff can happen within those 5 minutes. Yeah. So it's a wonderful right that we have that Second Amendment right to bear arms to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. Did you grow up in a gun owning family? Have you always been a Second Amendment supporter?
Sort of. I wouldn't say yes or no. When I met my husband, that's when we really got into the sport. My first firearm purchase was a Mossberg 500. It was a 20 gauge. And then we went to one of our local ranges and did skeet, and it was great. And I fell in love with it at that point on.
That is awesome. So do you have any advice for people who are, thinking about buying a gun for the first time? What would you tell them?
Why not? It's scared of it. Yes, it goes bang. But my analogy is, were you scared to drive for the first time? Of course you were. It's the unknown. If you don't try it, you don't know if you would like it or not. They're not scary as long as you are a responsible citizen. It's a great sport. It's fun. It's wonderful just to go out and just shoot some targets and just get more accurate and see how you progress from being a novice shooter to a great shooter.
That is awesome. Again, talking with Lisa Mayo about the new gun store there in Comstock Park. Is that the name of the town?
Yep, Comstock Park, 5357 Alpine Avenue.
Got to get the address in there. Now, where is Comstock Park in the state of Michigan, Lisa?
It is near Grand Rapids on the northwest side.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, again, I appreciate you taking a couple of minutes. Last couple of questions anyway. As a female gun store owner, I know that was one of the angles that the local TV station took, that, oh my gosh, it's a woman opened up this gun store, which is, maybe a little unusual, but do you feel like you stand out as a female gun store owner? And if so, what do you hope to do with the position, that sort of, semi-unique position that you have now?
I absolutely do feel like I am kind of special. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm breaking a lot of stereotypes. So especially for gun shows, since I've been doing those for a few years now, it's amazing to see when people come in and say, "Who's the owner?" And they always look to the guys that are helping me, and they're like, "Nope, it's her. And their jaw drops when I pull our 48-foot trailer to the gun shows. I know how to back it up. I'm the owner. I know how to do it. It's fun. I actually really like it. And I think for women in general, it's an untapped market, because women they're more scared about the guns than men do. Men are like, no, I'm going to do this and take action. And women can be very intimidated, especially when they go to gun shows or even just coming in the store. It's very interesting to see them go through the process of being very scared and then kind of narrow down to what they like. And then from there, they just, this like sparkle in their eye occurs, and it's just amazing to see that.
Absolutely.
Especially those women that have been a victim of something, like either domestic abuse or stalking, and they want to take action and have their right to feel protected and safe. Those are wonderful things to see.
Absolutely right. And, one of those, I think, empowering moments is purchasing a firearm. But I think also going out to the range for the first time, shooting that gun for the first time is very empowering. And I know that, with the number of new gun owners that we have, all of us in the Second Amendment community want to make sure that these folks get the education and the training that they need. How has the coronavirus impacted gun ranges in Michigan? And are these new gun owners, are they able to go out and take a basic pistol course? Are they able to get some range time in at the moment?
As far as I know, certain ranges are open to members only.
Okay.
So I don't know too much on that aspect. But I do know that a lot of people that come in that are first-time gun buyers, they usually have a friend that they can go with, like either owns property or something, so they can get a handle on the weapon. Because I definitely agree, it's our Second Amendment right to own a firearm, but it's our responsibility to train and know how to use the weapon.
Absolutely. Well, listen, again, I appreciate you taking a couple of minutes out of your day to talk with us. Go ahead and give us the address for Flashpoint Firearms, if you don't mind.
Yep, it is 5357 Alpine Avenue, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49321.
All right. Well, for folks in the Grand Rapids area, I hope they come by and see you. Are you having to limit the number of customers that are in your store right now? Or are you having to do this by appointment? But every state seems to have different rules for reopening businesses at the moment.
Yep, we're doing our diligence. We're doing about 5 customers at a time. So that's how we're following and being going to what they need for us to do. And then that's about it.
All right. Well, again, Lisa, it was a real pleasure talking with you. Hope we get a chance to talk again soon, but best of luck with the new business. Hope the business continues to be good. And thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Yep, and then people can visit our website at www.flashpointtacticalusa.com.
Excellent. Lisa Mayo joining us here on Bearing Arms, Cam & Company. Just a quick program note. I had mentioned on Twitter late Thursday night that we were going to be talking with a couple of the individuals that had provided an armed escort for Michigan State Representative Sarah Anthony earlier this week. Mike Lynn Jr. and his son Mikey among those individuals doing so. I did have a brief conversation with Mike Lynn Jr. earlier today. And just to be perfectly honest with you, the conversation was not as long as I would have liked. I had some time constraints. And I'm going to invite Mike and his son on the program on Monday so we can actually spend some more time talking about some of the issues that they raised, because this was a pretty weighty and beefy conversation in dealing with some pretty weighty and beefy issues. And so I don't want to shortchange Mike and his perspective and his point of view. I want to make sure that we have time to actually get into all of those details. So look for that hopefully on Monday's Bearing Arms Cam and Company. Right now, let's get to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, our recidivist report. We will start there with a story out of Decatur, Illinois, where a parolee is now headed back to prison after police found firearms that he was not allowed to own, a lot of them in his home. This is the individual in question there, 22-year-old Brett Ballard, sentenced to 5 years of incarceration after he appeared in Marion Circuit Court on Thursday, pleaded guilty to one count of unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon. In exchange for that one guilty plea for the one count, 8 other charges of being a felon in possession of a firearm were dismissed. As it turns out, Ballard was encountered by police just after midnight, February the 7th, found running close by where officers had seen a male bail out of a van that had fled from a traffic stop. They conducted a parole search of Ballard's home. Short time later, found 7 loaded and unloaded firearms ranging from rifles to shotguns to handguns. Ammunition box filled with live rounds of various calibers also discovered concealed in a crawl space. That's a no-no for Brett Ballard, who was on probation after receiving a 4-year prison sentence in March of 2016 when he pleaded guilty to a charge of aggravated discharge of a firearm, which is a Class 1 felony. His attorney in court this week said that Ballard had indicated he has substance abuse issues. He's asking for a recommendation of substance abuse treatments. While he is serving this new sentence, he will be eligible for some substance abuse treatments, and I hope that he takes advantage of that. Had he not taken this plea deal, had prosecutors not offered this plea deal, which again, 5 years sentenced, but he won't do 5 years. He'll likely do about 2.5, as long as he stays out of trouble behind bars. Could have faced up to 14 years in prison. So a pretty good deal for Brett Ballard. Let's hope that he takes advantage of it, able to turn his life around. 22 years old, not too late to make a new start. Our armed citizen story of the day from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, where the Bartow County Sheriff says a neighbor actually came to the aid of a man who was under attack. Deputies responded to Floral Drive, just north of Cartersville, Georgia, shortly after 7 p.m. Thursday night, after getting a 911 call about a disturbance. The Bartow County Sheriff says when they arrived, they discovered the homeowner, a man in his late 80s, had been assaulted with a board. Major Jonathan Rogers with the Bartow County Sheriff's Office says that the suspect had been shot several times by the man's neighbors who heard the commotion and then ran over to help. Burglary suspect was shot after trying to attack the man's neighbors with a metal post. According to the sheriff's major, he was held at the scene until deputies arrived. The homeowner had to be life-flighted to an Atlanta hospital. The extent of his injuries are not known at this time. Home invasion suspect taken to another hospital. He is expected to survive his injuries. He's now been charged with burglary, 2 counts of aggravated assault, and 1 count of criminal trespass. Authorities say additional charges are likely. The neighbors who came to the aid of the elderly homeowner not facing any charges because they were acting in defense of another. Finally today, we have our good deed of the day, and I've got to thank Seth where is Seth from? Oh, of course, this is when my computer decides to freeze up. There we go. Seth is from Mount Sidney, Virginia. He says, I love your show. I listen daily on my drive home from work, and here's a link to a news story I saw in my local news that I think falls into your good deed of the day. Indeed, it does, Seth, and I thank you so much for sending this along. Check out this. A stranger saves a dog life after a freak accident, and they reunite thanks to social media. This from WHSV, Dateline, Augusta County, Georgia. Jet is a 3-year-old German Shepherd and a good boy, but everything, sometimes accidents happen. Bliss Knuckles was playing with the Jet on Wednesday, and her mom, Teresa Parkins, says, my daughter calls and says, "Oh my gosh, Jet swallowed the ball and we can't get it out." Yeah, that's terrifying. Perkins was on her way home. She got the phone call. She called the vet who told her to bring Jet in. She said, "I put him in the back seat. I flew down the road." She says, "I was going down 340, got to a construction site. I'd been listening to Jet the whole time, and he was gasping for breath, and then he stopped." So the airway completely obstructed. According to WHSV, Jay Johnston and Kavaya Holt just happened to be in the right place at the right time. They were working at the construction site. Jay Johnson says, a lady pulls up. I couldn't understand what she was saying. She was screaming and crying. She said, my dog, my dog. So the two guys said they knew that they had to help. Holt opened the back door, reached in to help the dog. Johnson says he was laying in there. I told Kavaya that she said he had swallowed a ball. Told him to open his mouth, go as far as he could, see if he could get it. Perkins says, my dog was dead. So he opened his mouth, grabbed the ball out, got the ball out of his mouth, still wasn't breathing, started doing CPR, started blowing in his mouth, and all of a sudden he held his head up and said, he's breathing, he's awake. Unbelievable. Perkins was able to rush to the vet, make sure that Jet was okay. She realized she didn't even have a chance to thank the two gentlemen who saved Jet's life, so she reached out on Facebook looking for them. And little did she know that Kavaya Holt was looking for her as well. He said, I wanted to make sure that he was good, make sure everything was all right. So I put the post on there, and then come to find out they were looking for me too. So friends tag friends on Facebook. On Thursday, Perkins was able to meet these two gentlemen in person again. They were able to thank Kavaya Holt for saving Jet's life. She said, Kavaya Holt says, I think it's awesome. Said, to be honest with you, I didn't expect it to happen. I thought we were going to go in a different direction. I think we all cross paths for a reason, and there is a reason why that happened yesterday. So in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing to save Jet the dog's life. We thank both of those gentlemen for their very good deed. That is all the time we've got for you on this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program today. Hope that you have a great weekend. We will be back on Monday with more of the latest Second Amendment news and information from all across the nation. And don't forget, you can subscribe to Town Hall Media on YouTube, or you can subscribe to Bearing Arms Cam & Company on Apple Podcasts or any of the finer podcast platforms. That way you never miss one of these programs. You can also become a VIP member of Bearing Arms or a VIP Gold member of Town Hall Media. That way you get exclusive analysis, commentary, and access to live chats. We're going to be doing another live chat next week. Not sure who I'll be joining, but I'm sure it's going to be a great time, and we would love to have you be a part of that as well. Thank you again for all your support, for watching, for listening, for spreading the word about Bearing Arms Cam & Company. And until we talk again, be well, be safe, be free, and we'll see you soon.